Today's story is the past is never really in the past. As a lot of you know, I'm a hospice nurse. I work for Hospice Savannah, and in 2001, I created a program called the Story Keeping Program, where I go to our patients' homes and record them telling us their life story, put it on a CD, and give it back to them. And lots of times on the very first visit when I go to see them, I say to them, "Where do you want to start?" So I went to see Chantal over on Oakland Island, and I said to her, "Chantal, we're going to do your life story. Where would you like to start?" And she said, "Oh, Dottie, I would like to start when I was 5 years old and I was a spy for the French underground." Well, yeah, let's start there. And she was. Alsace fell very early to the Germans in 1939, and the town was occupied right away. They took the men and put them in a POW camp. They took the houses and they lived in them, and the women and children stayed there. So the town was filled with Germans. And Chantal and her mother had to move from their house to a woman's house who had decided that her best lot was to be with the Germans and a consort of the Germans. And so her mother and Chantal lived upstairs, and another woman lived in a bedroom up on the other side. And this is Chantal's story. So my mother would put notes in my pinafore pockets, and I would walk through the streets of Alsace delivering messages to the French underground, and the Germans never knew it. Sometimes my mother walked with me, and sometimes she did not. And then my other job was to sit at the top of the stairs, because my mother and her friend were both working on French underground things at night when the Germans were downstairs partying. And if any Germans started walking up the stairs, I was supposed to sound the alarm. It was not a good life, but I had a very practical mother who said to me, "This is our life, this is the way it is, we're going to do whatever we can to get out of this alive." And that's what we did. When I was 7 years old, 2 years later, when I was 7 years old, my mother says to me one day, "It's time now for us to go and see what the Americans have dropped." I wondered what that was, but my mother soon let me know. The French underground would receive shells and ammo and hand grenades from the American pilots, dropping them over into the fields, hopefully close to where they could come out of where they were hiding and get them and use them. Sometimes, because of the blackouts and geography and whatever, the pilots missed. And on those days, when the ammos didn't hit exactly where they were supposed to, the women in Alsace and other towns would get on their bicycles just before dawn and go pick those things up and deliver them to a safe spot. Today was our turn. And so my mother filled our baskets, our front baskets and our back baskets, full of fruit and nuts and things, and we went out into the dark. And she said to me, "I will do everything I can to keep you safe. But if I say to you, get on your bike and go, get on your bike and run, you do exactly as I tell you. You don't look back. No matter what you hear, no matter what you think, you get on your bike and go." So we go to the spot, and sure enough, there were shells and ammo and hand grenades, and we tucked them under the fruit, hidden under the fruit. And on our way back, 2 Germans did stop us. And my mother became someone I had never seen before. She was so flirtatious. She pulled her skirt up as she sat on her bike, and she flirted with the Germans, and she said, "Here, have some fruit." And they did take some, and they let us go. And then 2 years later, the battle becomes really, really loud. It becomes really, really close. And we get word that the Allies are fighting very close to Alsace. They're fighting in that entire whole region. The Germans, one by one, start leaving the town. Not all at once, but a couple would go one day and a couple would go another day, and we were becoming less and less occupied. And one night, or one day during the day, the battle was extremely loud, extremely close. The Allies and the Axis were fighting right outside our city. And then it became dead quiet. And we got word that the Americans were coming into Alsace that night. We lined the street of Alsace, the whole main street, from a mile out on either side. The whole town came and lined up in front of it to welcome the Americans. They got there about midnight. And it wasn't like you see on TV with the people waving flags and everybody's got French and American flags. It was dead silence. You could see the lights of a convoy coming. You could hear the wheels turning. You could see strange, dark figures high up because men were sitting on tops of tanks and sitting on tops of covered trucks and sitting in their wagons and sitting everywhere and walking. And they were walking into our town, and it was dead silence on both sides. Every now and then a child would reach up and say, "Chocolat," and the Americans would throw candy down to them. And it was over, and they were there. And in the morning, we woke up, and we were still an occupied town, but we were free. Now, I know that you in the States had a really hard time during the war. I know you had rations. I know you didn't have many things. But for us, we lived every single day wondering if we were going to be alive at the end of that day, wondering what would happen to us. You have no idea what it's like to live in fear for 5 years, and you're just a little girl. Our life changed dramatically from that time on, being occupied by the Americans. And about 4 months later, the post office says to me, "Come down and get a package. It's too big for you to carry by yourself, so you'll have to bring someone with you." And so I dragged my mother down there, and we ran as fast as we could down there. And there was a care package for me. Had my name on it, my address, and it was from Vidalia, Georgia, in the United States. We took that package home, and I said to my mom, "Oh, Mom, look, somebody from Vidalia, Georgia, in the United States sent me a package." Now, my very practical mother said, "Well, honey, she doesn't know who you are. She just picked out your name." But she did it, Mom. She did it. She picked my name. She sent it to me. I'm going to live in Georgia one day. I don't think that's going to happen. So we tore into the package, and there was treasure in there, absolute treasure. There was toothpaste and toothbrushes and soap and washcloths and soft towels and candy, 2 coloring books, and a box of unopened new crayons, 2 picture books, and 2 postcards. One postcard said, "Greetings from Georgia," and it was the map of the state of Georgia with a peach right in the middle of it. And the other was, "Greetings from Vidalia." And she said, "Now, Dottie, go over to the bookcase and pull down this gold picture frame I have over there." So I, as a hospice nurse here in Savannah, Georgia, went over to the bookcase, and I pulled down the picture frame, and in it was a tattered remnants of brown paper packaging, and on it was stamped the care package label, "Caring American Relief Effort." And I brought it to her, and there we sat and looked at the past and looked at what one act of kindness did to change a little girl's life forever. Now, tomorrow we are going to celebrate Memorial Day, and I know that we're all thankful and grateful and cognizant of the freedom that has been given to us. I don't think sometimes that we really remember how freedom has been given all around the world by our American servicemen and women, and how grateful they are, and how thankful they are. And freedom is not free. It comes at a very high cost. And to free Europe was a very high cost in many lives. Now, on tomorrow at 3 o'clock is National Remembrance Moment. Bells all over, church bells all over the United States will ring, trains will blow their whistles, cars will cut their headlights on, people will pause wherever they are, yes, even in the mall shopping, and they will give thanks. The Major League Baseball teams will stop their games and give thanks for one moment at 3 o'clock. I'm hoping tomorrow at 3 o'clock you will also observe National Remembrance Day. And at 3 o'clock you will stop whatever you're doing. You will give thanks, you will be grateful, and you will remember freedom is not free.